Welcome to the Digital Enterprise Society podcast, addressing all aspects of the digital enterprise, inspiring connection without boundaries and creation without limits. Thank you for tuning in. Here are your hosts, Thom Singer and Craig Brown.
Hey everybody, and welcome back to the Digital Enterprise Society podcast. Or if this is your first time ever tuning in, welcome to the Digital Enterprise Society podcast. And thank you for coming along on the journey of this show that we designed to be a resource for those who work in and around PLM. The Digital Enterprise Society is a forum for the exchange of ideas surrounding the tools, processes, and practices used across the product lifecycle. To learn more, visit digitalenterprisesociety.org. My name is Thom Singer, and I have the honor to co-host this show every single week. Now, normally I am joined by Craig Brown. Craig is an industry veteran and former PLM leader at General Motors. But every now and then, about once a month, I do an episode where it's just me interviewing someone who is an expert in career advancement. And today, my guest is Frank Kitchen. And every week, we try to bring to you really interesting people like Frank who are going to help all of the listeners enhance and grow their careers. And today, we are going to talk about mindset and surrounding yourself with the right kinds of people. Now, if you're not familiar with Frank Kitchen, Frank is known as the Mindset Master Chef. Did you catch that little play there? His last name is Kitchen, and he's the Mindset Master Chef. And he is a fundraiser, a coach, and a keynote speaker, and he's always cooking something up. Get that little play on words there? Kitchen, cooking. Hey, Frank, welcome to the Digital Enterprise Society podcast.
Awesome. Thank you for having me here, Tom. Ready to have some fun today. Let's go ahead and get sharing.
So, Frank, tell us a little bit about your background. How does one become the Mindset Master Chef? What did you do before you were a coach, and what led you into starting your own business?
So the short story is I worked in retail for years, and I worked my way up pretty quickly in retail, got to like a higher position by the time I was about 23. So I went from being just a normal employee to being a manager and a trainer. And I liked it, but guess what? Just a lot of hours, a lot of burnout. And I said I needed to find something different. So I transitioned over to education and went to go work in leadership development. And during that time, I had my students look over to me and go, hey, you challenge us to live our dreams. What are you doing to live yours? So they knew that the college, don't want to say the college was holding me back, but they understood that some of us are designed to work for people and some of us are designed to work with people. And they were challenging me to step out of the college, share my leadership and mindset, methodology with people, but outside the college, share it with the world. So when you talk about becoming this mindset master chef, my students, anybody I've ever worked with, they're like, hey, you're always cooking something up. It's always fresh from the kitchen. And, you're positively contagious. You make us believe that we can do something. So whether I've been in the for-profit, nonprofit worlds, or even when I help coach sports, it was always about letting people understand what they could believe in themselves and to pull the best out of themselves. So when I had to figure out how to brand myself, I started to talk to all the people around me. And they go, well, yeah, you're always teaching us how to discover our passion, our purpose, and how to, quote, transform it or cook it up into reality. So that's how I became who I was.
So I love the fact that you were working in higher education and really being a mentor and a guide for these students who were launching into their lives. And they came back to you and said, hey, thanks for the guidance, but what are you doing for yourself? And I think that's actually something that all of us should get asked from time to time is, what are we doing for ourselves to follow the advice that we would give other people? So I think that's a great part of your story. Now, the other thing I want to touch on what you said was you spent a lot of time working in retail. Now, I think no matter what business we're in, whether, we work as a speaker, a coach, a podcast host, whether we work, with PLM software, whatever it is that we do, I think that having a basis in retail teaches us so much because we learn how to deal with the public. We learn about sort of profit and loss. We learn all kinds of things. What do you think are some of the biggest lessons that you walked away with having worked in retail that you now take into your world coaching corporate executives?
Well, like you said, the big piece was just how to, communicate and interact with people, different people. I mean, retail is a people business, and you may want to go in there with, your mindset going, okay, this is how it's going to be. But guess what? You're working with your employees, you're working with your higher ups at the corporate office, you're working with, your customers, and all of them have their own different types of communication styles, different mindsets, different goals. And you have to be able to extract that from them, find out what it is, and then point them in the right direction to keep them happy. Because if you don't keep them happy, then guess what? You're not going to be happy, because the corporate office will come to you and go, okay, you're not hitting the goals that we want. But at the same point in that retail area, you have to be willing to not just do what everybody else is doing. You have to be able to stand out. I wanted to move up, and I realized if I did everything everybody else is doing, I'm just going to stay in that same level. I wanted to go to higher ground, so I started to figure out, I was like, okay, who else is on that fast track pace? Who is doing what I want to do? So I started to reach out to them, and I became known as the guy. It's like, okay, he's got high, expectations for himself. I'm like, well, what's wrong with that?
So that brings us to sort of the point I want to get to today around mindset, around hanging around with the right people who are going to help you grow your career. Most of the people who listen to the show work for a variety of companies, small, medium, and large, oftentimes in manufacturing. And, sometimes they're not the leader of their department. Some of them are, but a lot of them are, trying to figure out, where do I go from here? So let's look at mindset. What does that even mean to you? And why does it matter to someone who is, trying to climb their corporate ladder?
Yeah. Well, quite simply, the easiest way to describe mindset here is, where your mind goes, your body will follow. So if you're saying, hey, you know what, I'm just going to go ahead and be here for 20, 30 years and get the watch, which that doesn't exist anymore, then guess what? That's where you're going to be. But for like even me, you have to be able to showcase it and let people know what you want. So when I worked in retail, I got passed up for a management job. And I'm like, I went to the boss like, hey, why did I get passed up? And they go, well, you never expressed that you wanted to move up. And it's like, whoa. So from that point, my mindset is let me program into the GPS where I want to go. Because, I want to come to Austin, Texas and see Thom right now. I'm going to jump into my car. I'm going to type in GPS. It's going to give me the route on how to get to Austin. And I'm going to follow that process. And I'm going to tell everybody I'm going to Austin. So guess what? I'll get there. But if I don't put anything in the GPS, I don't program anything in, I might be going in circles, stuck in traffic. And now my mindset's going to be like, okay, I guess I can't do this. So the big piece is to program where you want to go. And then you have to express it to the people around you saying, hey, here's where I want to go. And that's just something that was taught to me growing up was don't be afraid to share with people where you want to go. And I know it's kind of scary for a lot of people who are listening right now. It's like, it's like they might think that I'm, too proactive. They might think that I'm, trying to take their job. They're going to think that, I don't want to be here. It's like, no, that's other people's mindsets and their thoughts and their perceptions. You have to think about, okay, I got to take care of me, my family, keep the lights on. I've got aspirations. Well, there's nothing wrong with having those. And sometimes it's going to work because you and I understand this, Thom, and you can move up. And sometimes there's going to be groups that say, you know what? This just isn't working. Sorry, you've got too much ambition and, you're going to have to go somewhere else. But I'd rather go down giving my best punch, being who I am, versus trying to sit back and wait to be somebody else and get run over.
Well, you bring up a really interesting point that I hope that everybody listening really paid attention to. And that was you were passed over for the promotion because your boss said you never expressed that you were interested in the promotion. And I think this happens a lot. I find it a lot when I coach people. I do some coaching for attorneys and on how to do more business development. And I ask them, they tell me about a deal they didn't win. I go, did you ever tell the client, I would really like to represent you in this matter? And they often push back and they say, well, the fact that I'm there making a sales call, they know I'm interested. But really, sometimes you have to say the words, I'm really interested in that next promotion, or I would really like, to pursue a job like you have inside this company. If you actually say the words, it imprints on the person. And then oftentimes those people become your champions. If you let your boss know where you'd like to be in a year or 3 years, oftentimes your boss will remove the roadblocks for you. But if you don't tell them, you can't assume that they know just because you're working hard and showing up every day, right?
Oh, exactly. Like that was my deal. It's like, if I work, hard, they'll see me working hard and, I'll get the promotion. No, didn't happen. So at that point, I realized, okay, no matter where I go, I'm going to say, hey, here's what I'd like to do. Here's where I want to go. And as I said, some people like it, some people don't. But for me, now I don't have to go back and think about, I wish I would. I wish I could have, I would have changed. So as I said, go down with your best punch. If you're going to go down with your best punch, you're going to feel good about it and say, hey, you know what? It wasn't meant to be. But if you don't, express your wants or your needs or what you're truly hungry for, then guess what? When it doesn't work out, you're like, oh man, I wish I could have gone back and changed this. Maybe if I would have tried this. And then that means it's not them. That's on you.
So as we look to this whole idea of the mindset of having that focus of where you want to go and what you want to do so that the rest of you can follow, what are some of the key things around just understanding your personal mindset? Because we throw this word mindset around a lot, But I think for a lot of people, they don't even know where to begin.
Well, the first place to begin, obviously, is we're a reflection of the people we surround ourselves with. So I've worked in different workplace environments where nobody wanted to go anywhere. And guess what? That rubbed off on me. And I'm like, okay, I'm just going to show up for work, just do my job, get out of here. And what happened was the job fired me. They got rid of me. Like, oh, you've got no ambition. So I'm like, oh, okay, let me go to this next job and let me find out, okay, who are the all-stars? Let me hang out with them. Let me find out what they're doing to move up. And guess what? I moved up because what they're doing, that attitude, that energy rolled off on me. So I've got a mentor, and it's funny because his mindset was great, and we still stay in touch 30 years later. His name is Jim. Jim was working retail. He had our whole staff there, and he goes, okay, every one of you, my goal is to get every one of you a store. Everyone will be a manager. And we're all looking around like, we're cashiers. What are you talking about? Everybody in that group got their own store except for one because she chose to, have children. She's like, you know what? I'm going to focus on family. That was his mindset was, hey, I want to be judged not by my sales, but by the people I promote. So once that came in, any workplace I've ever been in, I've always worked hard to, encourage, inspire, empower people to move up and, be their best. And I'll ask them like, hey, what is your dream? What are your aspirations? And once they express that to me, when an opportunity arises because they've told me, then I'm like, hey, guess what? I've got this meeting here. I've got this committee. Hey, we've got a leadership group where we're trying to, promote people internally, but we want to make sure that we can, vet out or see the people who are really interested. So we've created our own, why are we going to hire from outside the company? We're going to have our own, quote, little executive team, of possibilities. And we're creating the funnel, the pipeline within the company. But once again, you don't get that unless you express it. Hey, I'd like to be a leader. I'd like to move up. I'd like the promotion. I would like to have your job, Tom. I don't want your job right now, but where do you see yourself in 5 or 10 years? I'd love to be doing what you're doing, Tom. And once again, some people are, especially in this time we live in now, and once again, that's their mindset. We're like, ooh, they're gunning for my job right now. But if they truly listen, understand, it's just saying, hey, I aspire to be like you.
All right. So getting around people who are ambitious is one of the steps to getting your mindset lined up. What are some others?
Some of the others is even when the interview process starts, the first day you go into the interview, what questions are you asking? You're interviewing them. So many of us get so excited, like, oh my God, I've got the job interview. And you go in and they throw everything out. It's like, yes, I'll take the job. No, the job or the employer is interviewing you to find out if you're a good fit. You need to interview the employer to see if they're a good fit for you. So, Tom, you and I have met, we've gone hiking, and I expressed to you before that, hey, I had a company where I went for the interview process and I saw the people who were, at a level above me. And I asked the question, I go, hey, how long did it take you to get to your position? And they go 5.5, 6 years. I'm like, I can't sit in the same position for 6 years, hoping or aspiring to get to that spot. So I turned down the job because I'm just going, like, no, that's not what I'm looking for at this time in my life. So the next one is just when we go to the interview process, think about all the things that you are, quote, gunning for, what you're trying to cook up, and make those your questions. Interview the employer, interview them as much as they're interviewing you.
All right. So the second one then is when you're going through the interview process, get your mindset set on I'm interviewing the company as well. But sometimes when it comes to mindset, we're so busy, we don't even have a time to clear the cobwebs away to even think about what we want. So what else can people do to make sure that they're getting their minds set in that right direction?
Okay. So let's think about this one then. I tell people is like you either have to put yourself in a positive and productive environment. And if you can't put yourself there, then you have to create it yourself. So the question you can ask, even with all these cobwebs in your head and things going on, everybody can write this one down right now. What's your culture? I mean, that's a question you can ask any employer during the interview process. You can ask your, supervisor, but what's the culture here? That throws so many employers for a loop when I ask that question. Even now, when I do interviews with groups to go just do a field trip to find out, how companies are productive or not productive, it's like, hey, what's your culture? And if they go, we don't know what our culture is, that's a red light for me. Like if they don't know what their culture is, where it should be, oh, we love to promote our people. We're looking to grow in the next 5 years. We're a family atmosphere. Okay, cool. They know what it is. And I can see if that aligns with my values. If they don't know, that's usually going to be a quick sign of this isn't going to work out. They're still trying to figure it out themselves.
So Frank, one of the things you talk about when you speak to companies and other places is you talk about live fresh. Again, yes. Playing on the name kitchen, right? We want everything in the kitchen to be fresh. So what do you mean by live fresh in your career?
So I'll ask you, we're going to flip the interview around right now, Tom. So when I say the word fresh right now, what do you think of?
lettuce, tomatoes. I think of a salad.
Salad. Okay. Now, the word fresh, is that a positive term to you or a negative term?
No, it's a positive term because if you have a salad that isn't fresh, that's gross.
Exactly. So now if I'm saying, okay, we're going to think of something fresh, people who can watch this video right now, Tom is smiling. So he's thought about it. And I could ask you right now, Tom, say the word fresh.
Fresh.
And you're smiling a little bit bigger, but with our mindset, it's not about what we think or what we say, it's how we live. So when I say live fresh, I'm saying, hey, you know what? We're not thinking about it. We're not talking about it. We are living it. So if we truly want to, excel in our workplace, people want to see you living it. And what we're going to do is we're going to live fresh. So when I say living fresh, it means you're committing your time. We all have that. We're committing our talent, our team, which is our network, or our treasures, our physical skills or resources to live the dreams we hunger for while helping others live the dreams they hunger for. So when we say living fresh is, hey, this is something that we're living on a day-to-day basis. So when I got a chance, we'll throw a name out, got a chance to work for Microsoft. And Microsoft, I was talking to like a lot of their people who are techs and fixing computers. And I go, hey, everybody's like, I want you to live fresh. I'm like, you're going to be a positive difference maker and a life changer. Now I'll go, well, Frank, I'm not a life changer. I'm like, why are you here? Like, well, I'm here to go to school. I want to pay my bills. I want to go on a vacation. Like, okay, let's figure out a way to live that. But why do your customers come in? And they're like, they want a computer. They want it fixed. I'm like, has anybody ever hugged you before? They're like, yeah. They're like, because they're going like, I'm not a life changer. I'm like, and who hugged you? They go, well, these grandparents came in and they had the blue screen of death. They lost all their grandkids' pictures. I was like, and what did you do? They go, well, we fixed it. I was like, and what happens? Like, they hugged you. I was like, yeah. I was like, so guess what? You're a life changer. I was like, you were actually living fresh. I was like, you weren't talking about what you're going to do. I was like, yes, you've got your dream, which is to go on a vacation. It's like, but the people who come in contact with you, they've got their dream also. So you're using your talent to help them live their dream. And that just blew their mind. Once again, what you said about the mindset shift was going, oh, wait a second. I'm not just here for a paycheck. I'm here to either live my dream or help somebody else, my clients, my supervisors, my company. And when you can think of that way going, hey, how am I going to come into work today and quote, provide a fresh experience for the people I come in contact with, whether it's myself, my coworkers, or our clients. And when you shift to that method, it's like, it's amazing how much, how well, watch my words today, how well you would perform. So when I say live fresh, essentially it's the 5-step recipe that I follow to get to where I am today. Essentially, let's think about it. Let's go for the people who are listening, Tom. The first thing is, what's your focus? You're at your employer. What's your focus? Are you there, quote, just to take up space and get a paycheck? Or are you looking to become the next CEO? So what's your focus? So when we have a recipe, the recipe has a clear focus, exactly what you want to produce. So Tom wants a salad right now. Well, what type of salad do you want, Tom?
Spinach salad.
Spinach salad. What's going to be on this salad?
Everything.
Right. When do you want it?
Now.
Right. Yeah. You've got a clear focus. But think about it. Many of us have come into workplaces without a clear focus. I'm just happy to have the job. That's not going to lead us anywhere. So the first one is we got to live focused. Now, after that, we got to live resourceful. And when I say resourceful, we have to think about what we have versus what we don't have. So if you said, hey, Frank, I want a spinach salad. Okay, Tom, we don't have spinach today. How about kale? That could work. I don't know, but that's...
Maybe romaine, but not kale.
Romaine, okay. Right. So now you've just gotten resourceful. You're thinking about what you do have. And one of the biggest things we all have is a network of other people. There's a reason we call it human resources. The people around us, we have to see the people we work with, who we surround ourselves with as a resource. So whether you're trying to move up in our company or maybe we're going to leave our company to go to another one, we need to talk to the people who are around us and ask them, it's like, hey, you know what? I've kind of hit the ceiling at this job. Here's what I'm looking to do. Oh, you know what? My employer's looking for somebody. Okay, we can go there. Hey, you know what? Talking to your supervisor, I would love to grow in this company. I'm really loving it. I want to move up. Oh, we've got this, mentorship program that can lead you up to something higher. Oh, okay. So you're being resourceful. So we got to live resourceful. Then we got to be enthusiastic. And we got to be honest. None of us are enthusiastic about the work that we do, but we are enthusiastic about the results of the work. So we have to be excited. What's keeping you up at night? So is it once again, we'll talk about promotions. Are you looking to get, move up? Guess what? There's going to probably be a lot of dirty work you have to do to move up, but the work's not going to excite you, but recognize like, okay, if I go through this training program for the next 6 months, then that gives me a chance to, I'll be honest, I work for a company and like, hey, if you go through the training process, you might get a chance to relocate to China for a few months. That excited me. Now, all the crap, they put me through. We can say that here, right?
Absolutely.
That was not worth it. But I'm like, I kept coming in every day because there was the hopes of working in the office in China to be like, wow, I was like, I'm an international worker. I get to travel, get to earn the points. That's exciting me. Like, earn the points, get my family to travel. Hey, nothing wrong with, having personal, goals there. So enthusiastic. Now from there, we got to get strong. We got to be mentally strong, which means nothing is easy, but anything is possible. We always see everything online now, social media, TV, and it looks like everything happened overnight. We're listening to Thom. Oh, Thom's, it's overnight success. No, like, how long have you been doing this, Thom?
I mean, I started as a speaker 15 years ago, and I launched my first podcast 7 years ago. So quite a while.
Right. So this is a 7-year process to be one of the top podcasters, in the world. So guess what? You got to stay mentally strong to go through it, to understand it's not going to happen overnight. Making that salad is not going to happen instantly. It takes some time to go and do. And then the final piece is you got to be honest with yourself. Are you helping the process or hurting the process? So you got to live honest. I didn't speak to my supervisor to say, hey, you know what? I'd like to move up in the company. I got passed up. Wasn't my company's fault. It was my fault. You got to be honest with that one. You have to be honest enough to go ask for questions. Hey, Thom, I'm struggling right now. So I talked to a speaker yesterday. He's like, hey, Frank, I'm running into a rut right now. Can you help me out? I'm looking for some new ideas. Okay, so he was honest enough to come ask me, and then we sat down for about 30 minutes, and boom, he's back on track again. So we have to go do that. So we got to be focused, resourceful, enthusiastic, strong, and honest. And now that we start to think about this and talk about it, when we start to go through this process, we're living it. And people are remembered by how they live, not what they say, not what they think. It's by how they live. So live it, everybody who's listening. Think it, but also make sure you are talking about and expressing it to the people who are around you.
All right, so let's take this down to some actionable items that listeners can do right now. If they want to advance in their career, grow inside the company they're in, get that next promotion, be able to take on a team, whatever it is they want to do, what are some things that they can put into actual practice starting right when they hit stop on this podcast?
Okay, so after they hit stop, number one, we're going to go find somebody in our company who has that position that we want. And we're going to invite them out to lunch, coffee, whatever it is, and be like, hey, I would like to interview you and find out how you got your position. They will pretty much lay out the game plan for you. So now you've got, the recipe for how to turn this big dream that you hunger for, this salad, into reality. So let's go find the people who got the spot that we want. Boom. So that's number one. Number two, you've got human resources. Go down to human resources and annoy them. I mean, go down and find out what other positions are open in the company. Go ahead and ask them, because everybody thinks that human resources is the group that fires you. No, human resources is there to develop you. So I would go into human resources and go, hey, I would like to move up in the company. What professional development opportunities are there for me? A lot of people don't understand that HR usually sits on a big pot of money. There might be a conference you want to go to. Professional development. Okay, you can go there. So they actually have money that they'll pay you to go get trained. And many times I've worked with HR groups where they go, Frank, we're still sitting on this huge pot of money because no one ever came to us, even though we sent out the emails. So that's going to be number two. Go to HR. They're there to help you, not fire you. And then number three is, we really have to educate ourselves. So we're listening to this podcast right now, but don't think that your employer is going to give you all the knowledge and the resources that you need. You need to go out there. So if you have this high aspiration, then you should be training yourself. So go find podcasts, go find books, go find other people who are working in the career fields that you want to get into or aspire to, and make connections. Right now, we are one click away from everybody. Thom, you and I grew up in the phone book generation. I mean, so trying to track down people in phone book, write a letter, it was hard. But I mean, right now, we're literally one click away. That's how you and I met. I'm like, oh, I like what his content is, I like his resources. Hey, can we meet? And, we met through Zoom. And then, oh, you're in my town. Can we meet? And we met in person. And all it was a click. So as we said, number one is we got to go ahead and just start to interview people who are in a position that we want. Find out what they've gone to. Number two, hit, human resources up because they provide professional development. And then number three is get as much knowledge as you can to prepare yourself for that promotion or interview, because guess what? The employer isn't always necessarily going to give it to you. So you've got to prepare yourself for the success in the future.
God, I've loved this conversation. Time has flown by really fast. I hope that everybody listening really caught on to all the little nuggets that Frank shared with us. First thing I want to recap really quick is, hey, you've got to be the one who knows that even in the job you're doing, you're impacting other people's lives. Right now, with the job you're in, you're already a life changer. Number two, he gave us the recipe for living fresh, because he's Frank Kitchen, fresh in the kitchen. And that is focus, be resourceful, be enthusiastic, be strong, and be honest with yourself. And then finally, the action items that you can put into play right now, no matter where you work, is number one, go talk to people living the life of their career that you want to be living. Because here's what I always tell people, Frank. I tell people all the time that when you talk to really smart people, they can't help it. Even if they don't mean to help you, they can't stop it. Success leaves clues. So go talk to those people who are living that you want. And Frank's right. Oftentimes, nobody ever goes to HR and says, what can I do for more development? And it is true. They do have money. And it's funny, I worked for a company and I used to go to several conferences a year. And my peers in other offices were like, how come he gets to go to conferences after like 2 years of this? And the answer was, he put in a request for the funding. That was the whole answer, was he put in the request. And the truth was, once other people started putting in the request, I didn't always get the yes, but I had always gotten the yes before because nobody knew there was even money there. And then the final thing is, you got to take ownership. And everybody who listens to the Digital Enterprise Society podcast already is taking ownership of their own education because they invest the time every week to listen to all the guests that Craig and I bring to this podcast. So Frank, any final words for the audience?
I'm just going to tell everybody to live fresh and to continue to grow as a professional. Follow me on LinkedIn. Just go look up Frank Kitchen. There's only one of me. So look up Frank Kitchen, and I'm always sharing as much information as I can to help people continually grow and become those difference makers and life changers. So keep in touch. This is the start of a relationship.
Awesome. Well, Frank Kitchen, thank you so much for being a guest here on the Digital Enterprise Society podcast. And to those of you who are listening, make sure you join us every single week for more thoughts, ideas, and actionable information in and around your career in product lifecycle management. And remember this, the Digital Enterprise Society is the place for the exchange of ideas around digital manufacturing tools. Go check us out at digitalenterprisesociety.org.
You've been listening to the Digital Enterprise Society podcast. Learn more about what you've heard here today at digitalenterprisesociety.org. Join us again next week for more connection without boundaries and creation without limits.